Looking for a fun, different new shirt? Something related to the things you like? Climbing in the outdoors, perhaps philosophy? Visit our new store, The Dihedral Goods, on Etsy, and you'll find all that and much more.
I'm on! Roll! Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Dihedral Podcast. This is Carrot, and today we are joined by one of Houston's premier personal trainers. This is a man who has advised, trained, fixed, cracked, and taught and supported nearly every climber in the entire Houston area, including yours truly. I'm sure that half the climbers in and around Houston have straighter backs, leaner muscles, and stronger tendons because of his magical expertise. Climber extraordinaire Zac Shoulders is with us today to talk about the process of making his dream become a reality as he's set to open North Houston's newest climbing gym, MoCo Bouldering and Fitness. Zac, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks so much. That's quite the flattering intro there.
I feel like it's an undersell. I mean, maybe it's over half of all Houston climbers. So I just want to jump right into it with like a hard-hitting question.
Mhm.
Why are you so nice?
Why not, right?
Hey, that works for me.
I think life is easier and when you're nice and more things come your way when you're nice.
It's so funny. That the climbing community is expansive and we're always meeting new people and bumping into new people. And I swear every week I'll bump into somebody who's just like, oh, there's this guy, his name is Zac. I'm like, say no more. Like he's the best. It's just amazing how many people I bump into who's just like, you
Man,
save
very
them in
cool.
one way or another. So I
Awesome.
don't know, as you get like set to open this new gym, I feel like every person that walks through the door is going to be treated like royalty just based on who you are. Like that's your disposition.
Yeah, yeah, and I hope that definitely flows down to all of our employees also, right? Like culture is what makes a climbing gym, and if we have an awesome, welcoming, nice culture, I think that's a recipe for success.
Yeah, I could not possibly agree more. And I'm sure we'll get a chance to talk about that in a little while. But before getting into anything about climbing, I was wondering if we could take a minute to talk a little bit about your background as a trainer and somebody who
Yeah.
works in physical fitness and health and wellness, how you got into that, and
Sure.
what that means moving forward.
Gotcha. So, um, and I grew up wrestling, and for a long time as a kid, I wanted to be a wrestling coach. And man, in order to be a coach in Texas, you also need to be a teacher. And I did not want to be a teacher. But I was still very much into coaching and into fitness. So personal training was kind of just came very natural to me with my coaching goals, right? So became a trainer. Um, love everything about training, right? I love training people that have never worked out before, kind of introducing them to it, and I love training athletes also, where you can push it a little bit more, right?
Yeah,
So became a trainer, kind of fell in love with it. And when you love your job, you tend to do pretty well at it, right? So it really liked what I do. Financially, it worked out well for me. So it just kind of snowballed, right? Now, eventually, as I got older and older, I started getting more and more injuries, right?
yeah,
So started getting much more into injury prevention and things along those lines. Um, and one thing I found out doing that is, man, everyone's at risk of being injured, right? Like
yeah, for
muscle,
sure.
if you do anything over and over, you're gonna have muscle imbalances. And that's really what I tried to take to the climbing community, right?
Yeah,
You don't necessarily need to be able to bench 250 pounds to be able to climb anything, right? In
sure.
fact, you might not be able to climb
Yeah,
something
exactly. I
as
might go
you
in the
bench
opposite.
250
Yeah.
pounds, right? So, being able to just talk to climbers, show them proper ways to warm up, or warn against not warming up almost more than anything else, probably
Yeah,
those people that you spoke and said that I was so nice. There's no doubt they've heard me preach about the importance of warming up before
for
before
sure.
physical activity. Yeah. Um, Yeah, so since then, I mean, as a trainer, kind of what's the next career progression from a trainer, right? To me, gym ownership was that answer. So that's kind of how we got to the place that we are now.
So yeah, we have a little background on like, your passion for wrestling and how that
Mhm.
became more into training. Let's talk a little bit about how you got into climbing. Like, when did that
Yeah.
happen? Was it like an immediate addiction? Did you slow step into it?
So I always thought climbers were kind of crazy. But I was training here in the Woodlands, and at this point, I was just trying to get just as big and as strong as I could get. And
Yeah,
uh, one day that kind of caught up with me, and I completely ruptured my pec. Tore completely off the bone. I had surgery. Coming back from that, just lifting weights, I never felt completely back to normal, right?
yeah,
Was always a little cautious about it. And again, the more I started researching muscle imbalances and just human movement, I was like, man, I don't know. I just don't have the frame to be a big muscly guy, maybe, So I
yeah,
was kind of in a weird spot, and one of my clients was an avid climber, and she was like, "You just need to come to the climbing gym with me one time. Just come with me one time." So she talked me and my wife into it. We went up to Inspire with her, and yeah, the first time I was there, I was hooked, right? It really reminded me of wrestling quite a bit, right?
yeah,
Like the internal struggle, right? It's you versus the wall, but it's much more of you versus yourself, and
yeah, for sure.
that's something that uh, I had really missed, and immediately the fire started inside.
No, that's awesome. I feel like a lot of people can relate to that. At the gym, we'll bump into people who used to X, whether it's being a bicyclist or
Sure.
a gymnast or a weightlifter or something like that, a wrestler. There is something about climbing that no matter what you did, there's that challenge from the inside that allows you to not
Yeah,
take it out
yeah.
on the wall, but try to find new maneuvers up the wall. That's super
Right.
relatable. So we hear a little bit about your background as a trainer, a little bit about your background as a climber. How did these two things come together to inspire you to want to open your own gym?
Well, like a lot of people in the fitness industry in 2020, I lost my job, right?
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
so I had lost my job. I was just personal training out of my garage at that point, and I went on a fishing trip with some guys, and they were like, so what are you thinking about doing?" I was like, man, I'd really like to start a climbing gym," and they were like, "Oh, that would be just a great investment." They were talking about the sport of climbing and how it's growing, and that kind of got my wheels turning a little bit. And then talked to what is now one of my business partners, Chance, and I was like,
Yeah.
"Man, maybe we could. You think we could find some investors and get a gym going?" And the second I told him that, it was on from there. I don't, of course, Chance, and just how
Yeah.
passionate and
Yeah,
excited
for
he is
sure.
about climbing. So, bringing that idea to him, and we just ran with it from there. So, I say ran with it from there like it was a quick thing that happened, but
Yeah.
obviously here we are 4 or 5 years later, and
I,
almost getting the doors open.
absolutely. And I always felt bad because we've talked at the gym quite often, and,
Yeah.
and I'm sure everybody's like, "Oh, what's going on with the gym? What's going on with the gym?"
Uh,
It's got to be such a
yeah.
relief to be like, "It's opening. Like we're right here."
Exactly. And I felt uh, like I told everyone, right? Like 4 years ago, I told everyone, "Hey,
Yeah.
I'm opening up a climbing gym." And I've debated in my own head whether, like, hey, if I do this again, I'm not telling anyone until it's
Yeah.
there. But also I just created so much accountability for myself,
Yeah.
by telling everyone, like, any roadblock that I got to, and it would have been completely reasonable to give up on it, but
Yeah.
man, I've told 100 people that I'm opening a climbing gym.
I'm accountable to these people. They're expecting this out of me. That's so great. So, look, it's been a relatively long process. I mean, maybe not 10 or 15 or 20 years or anything
Yeah.
like that, but like you said, there's been some roadblocks along the way. I was hoping we could talk about that path between conception
Yeah.
and completion. I mean, I know there's still a few odds and ends to finish up, but like the finish line is in sight. And so, can you talk
Yeah.
us
Yeah.
through like what it takes from that idea as you're fishing
Uh,
with your buddies to about to cut the red ribbon?
yeah. Yeah. So, um, step one is getting investors, right? And
Yeah.
unless you have quite a bit of money, you're gonna need investors.
Yeah.
So basically, I just looked into like, I started this from I had no idea what to do, So like, all right, if I'm gonna need investors, I really need to make a good business plan. So invested quite a bit of money doing research and a whole lot of time writing just the best business plan that I could, right?
Yeah.
Um, since then, other people have had me look at their business plans, and it's like you really have to put a lot of work into it if people are going
Okay.
to be throwing their hard-earned money at it, right?
Yeah.
So I went pretty crazy with the business plan. Chance has a few connections, so we reached out to all of them, and one guy was just super interested in it. And something that gets me really excited, he wasn't so excited about the gym, right? He was excited about the scalability of it, kind of our business model and the way that we're going about it. He was like, yeah, but if this gym works, like we don't want one gym. We want
Yeah.
to start
That's
really
awesome.
expanding. And that got me really excited. I'm here like, oh, I don't know if this one gym will work. And he's like, no,
He's like,
we
what
need
about
more than one,
21? Yeah, exactly.
So a really cool partner to have, even though he's not really into the climbing space. He really believes in the project, which is really cool. Um, and again, I had never done anything like this before. So as soon as we kind of got our investors locked in, I was like, oh, all right, let's go. We're about to have a gym. Um, Obviously incredibly naive, right?
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
I thought the money was the biggest obstacle, and that's just one of the many ones,
Yeah.
right? Um, so one thing that we wanted to do, we wanted to get in um, basically as cheaply as possible, right? So we weren't looking to buy land, we were looking to lease a building. And right after 2020, not too many landowners wanted to lease to a gym.
Yeah,
I mean, so many gyms closed in 2020, and uh, obviously the gym was out of luck, but the landowner that was collecting that rent was also out of luck also. So
right.
it was really hard to find a place that would lease to a gym. But I had got to a point of just, man, maybe we might just have to wait. We might have to look at completely different areas, things along those lines. And I just got the kind of a last ditch effort, kind of a Hail Mary. I reached out to the mayor of Conroe and I said, hey, I think this is a great opportunity for us and for the city of Conroe. There's not
Yeah,
a lot of recreational activities in the city right now, and it's just blowing up, and it really needs something families can go to, something people can go to on Friday nights to have fun, right?
for sure.
Um, and basically pitched him my idea, and turns out that he owned a realty company and actually knew someone that had what could have been the perfect plot of land, and sure enough, I think that it was.
That's awesome.
It was there was only a slab and red steel up, so they're leasing it to us, but built to suit, which I am glad that so many of the other buildings fell through because now that we're building it to
Oh,
our
yeah,
specifications, I couldn't imagine trying to build it to an
for
existing
sure.
building. It would be quite the headache and some issues that might not make it as member friendly. I think we were able to get around and really knock it out of the park with the building that we have now.
That's awesome. So there's a lot of different things to go over that I think would be fun to talk about. But before any of that,
Uh,
maybe you could walk the listeners through like the first time to the gym, it's open, they pull up in the parking lot, they walk up to the building. What can they expect to see?
um, man, so we really went pretty crazy with what we'd call the wow factor as soon as you walk in, right?
Yeah.
We kind of me and Chance we kind of got a little out of control with the design process. I had it all mapped out of how much money we were going to spend on the climbing wall.
Yeah,
One thing that we really wanted was as soon as you walk in, we wanted a really big feature there to kind of just grab the attention. If you're a climber and see this feature, you're going to be excited to climb on it. If you're not a climber and you walk in and see this feature, I want you to think like, oh, this is not what I expected when I walked in here.
yeah, for
This is
sure.
this is really cool. Um, so we spent quite a bit more than we were planning on the climbing wall because we really wanted that wow factor. What I think is a big difference when you walk in our gym is just going to be I mean, even the color scheme, I think, kind of separates us
For sure.
from other gyms, right? Our walls are black and birch. As soon as you walk in, you know this isn't necessarily a kids' play place. Like this is designed
For
for,
sure.
for
Yeah.
climbers or for fitness or things along those lines, which I'm really excited about, and I really think that's where the industry is going. So I think we're doing it at a good time.
Yeah, those that color scheme is clean. I mean, just from the photos that you guys have posted so far. So we walk in, we're blown away because like we have these overhanging like islands that are just
Yeah.
looking us in the face. So what do we got? We got a place to check in,
Yeah, yeah.
two rentals, things like that.
Exactly, exactly. Of course, we'll have you walk in, you'll be um to the left, you'll see, of course, all of our climbing walls. Straight ahead, you're gonna see the front desk, right? Hoping to have the best front desk workers
We
around,
will.
meeting you up there also, right? But yeah, that's where you'll check in. Just to the right of that, we'll have like our orientation video on a loop. Um, and then, I mean, as soon as if you're at the front desk and turn to your left, all you're going to see is climbing for the most part. So that's pretty awesome. Right behind that front desk, we have our staff offices. We have our men's and women's locker room. But one of the things I'm most excited about is just beyond that, which you won't necessarily see when you first walk in. But we have a 4,000 square foot, just traditional weight area.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say weight area because, of course, we'll have what like assault bikes,
Oh, wow.
treadmills, ski ergs, all of that type of fun
It's a
stuff.
gym. You get
Yeah,
rid of
yeah,
you get rid of
exactly,
the climbing, it's
exactly.
still a gym.
Yeah, yeah, still a gym, and that's what we're hoping to capture a little bit also as maybe someone's not interested in climbing, but it's a gym close to their house, so they show up just for the workout
Yeah.
aspect, and then we convert some of those people into climbers as well.
And I think you're right in the sense that this is a direction that isn't maybe capitalized on as much in other gyms where the focus is on climbing.
Yeah.
You present both options, and it
Mhm.
turns out that both options really complement one another. And so for
Yeah,
people to really want to up their game in either of those areas, they have the opportunity to do that.
definitely. And a big thing, one of the number one reasons I hear people say that they don't work out is they don't have enough time, right? And
Yeah.
you go to a lot of climbing gyms around 6 p.m. You see a group of kids climbing, and they're a parent sitting over there on their phone or reading a
Yeah.
book or something along
So
those lines.
true.
And in my mind, like you've already overcome the objection of time. This person's
Yeah.
they're just there because someone else wants to do something there. If they could hop into a group fitness class while their kids are climbing, or they
So
could work
cool.
with a personal trainer while their kids are climbing, I think that's a perfect situation.
Yeah, that's another thing that gyms won't be able to offer is like you, like you're a personal trainer, not just a
Yeah,
gym
yeah.
owner who's just in it for the money. Like you really are compassionate about health and wellness and all these different types of things. And so I am sure that that's going to bleed all the way through every person that works there and start to bleed
I
through
hope
the
so.
members.
I hope so. I've never known anyone that working out or climbing made their life worse, right? Like,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, yeah.
exactly. So what about are you guys going to have like a gear shop? Can people buy shoes and equipment there or no?
So we're starting off probably not selling shoes. I mean, there's just like you see at any store, right? People try them on, then they buy them
Buy
online,
them
and you can
online, yeah.
price match them all you want, and it's still just not the biggest thing. Now,
Yeah.
if we see that we have a market, then by all means we'll start selling them. But of course we'll have all the other good stuff. We'll have
Chalk, tape.
chalk bags, of course our
Yeah.
our, our MoCo merch,
Oh, nice.
the classic fingernail clippers,
Oh
every
yeah, a brush.
yeah, brushes, yeah, definitely.
Stuff that you absolutely need. All right, and then are you guys planning on? I know it's new, just opening,
Uh,
and all these things have to come together. But are you guys looking at competitive teams? Are you looking at birthday
yeah.
parties? All the typical things you'd find at a gym?
For sure. And that's one thing that I personally really want to do is push climbing as a sport for kids and not just a weekend birthday activity, right?
Yeah,
I'm going to be going to some of the schools around CISD and doing talks about how hey, you could join our climbing team just like you could join a soccer team, right? We will be certified to do off-campus PE, so throwing that into the mix as
cool.
well. For like parties, we're doing it a little bit differently. We're just gonna do like table rentals for the most part for
Yeah,
parties. We don't have a designated party room or anything like that. Um, now, of course, like our idea is we're not necessarily the party place, Like
yeah,
we
of
we
course.
want people to become members. We don't want people to show up once every quarter for the kids
Yeah,
party. Um, we're not turning down parties by any means, but that's
yeah.
we're not going to be marketing for them that heavily.
Okay. So I've written so many different gym reviews, and one thing that really separates one gym from another
Uh,
is the changing areas. Like, there's a difference
yeah,
between somebody who offers a urinal and somebody who offers the ability to take a shower and head
for
there
sure.
right from work, or right, you know what I mean? So, can you just,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
kind of a weird question, but what are your changing room facilities like?
Yeah, so I think it's not huge by any means, but we are going to have a locker room area in the men's and women's. Um, we the day that we open, we are not going to have showers in the men's or women's bathrooms, but we do basically have the rough-in plumbing for it.
Yeah.
So
All right.
that is something that we definitely want to move towards as we open and start making some money.
That's awesome. No, that's perfect. So, do you have a date for the opening as of yet, or no, we're still working on it?
We've narrowed it down to a couple weeks, but
Okay.
don't want to throw anything out there officially just
I
yet.
understand. Not at work.
We are to the point that I think the week after spring break, so let's say March 18th or so, we're going to
Mhm.
start doing hard hat tours.
Cool.
So we're going to start getting people into the gym, which I'm really excited about. And by March 18th, we should have that kind of soft opening date and
Okay.
grand opening date as well.
And then what are you expecting long term? Yeah, I know like the investors like let's grow, but if
Yeah,
this is
yeah,
the starting gym, how do you
yeah.
envision it, 10, 15 years from now?
Sure. And I more than anything else, I want it to be a climbing gym for climbers. That's
Yeah.
that's that's kind of what 10 years down the road or 5 years down the road, once we're established and
Hmm.
people from the area know or people from Austin have been to our gym, people from Dallas have been to our gym. Um, I want the climbers to want to come to our gym. And that's what I hope is
That's great.
is what's going on 5, 10 years down the road, right? Whether we have one gym or whether we have three gyms, I want
Yeah.
if you're a climber, you're like, oh, dude, I heard if you're really a climber, you want to go to MoCo, right? For me, I have a 3-year-old daughter, and 10 years down the road, I really hope that she thinks it's one of the awesome places to grow up in, you know?
Fingers crossed. It's always those things where there's a delicate balance between like you're going to be a climber and them hating it, and then just like walking them till they love it. I'm sure she's going to love it.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
I think so.
one of the integral parts of a climbing gym is the head route setter. So, can you tell us a
Yeah,
little bit
yeah.
about your head route setter?
Yeah, so we got Matt Hewlett. We really lucked out. We had put on social media and stuff that we were looking at setters, and by all means, we found some good candidates. But through climbingbusinessjournal.com, Matt reached out to us, and he was like, "Hey, I'm currently living kind of overseas. We're looking to move back into the States, and specifically kind of the Houston area." And
Yeah.
as soon as we started talking to him, we realized one, not only was he going to be the most well suited to set for us. He is a just wealth of knowledge about the climbing industry in general. He started in the industry in 2099 or not 2099,
Yeah, no,
1999.
back in the 1900s.
Yeah, and it's hard to find people that were in the industry back then that are
Yeah,
still
for
in the industry
sure.
now, you know. He's done just about everything you could do in the industry. He was a photographer for Evolve, got to travel the world, taking pictures of
That's
people
pretty cool.
climbing in Evolve shoes. That's pretty awesome. He's worked for a number of climbing hold companies. He actually has experience building climbing walls. So On-Site's building our walls, and they actually have him on payroll right now, and
Oh, what? That's so
he's
cool.
helping
Good
build
for
our
him.
walls right
Oh
now.
man.
So yeah, really cool. But we're just super pumped to see the routes that he starts throwing up. Our island just finished, so we're gonna bring some holds up there and
Awesome.
get him started setting so we can have some fun.
It's great that he can set the first route and then photograph the first route. Like he can just kind of do it all
Exactly,
up.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. It's really awesome, and not just a wealth of information, not just a good climber, but it's someone that we really enjoy being around also. So that's really cool, right?
Makes
Like
all the
I'm gonna
difference.
live at the gym, so
Yeah.
really enjoying the another person that's an integral part of the gym is pretty cool.
Oh, it's everything. So climbers, I feel like there's one thing beyond the climbing that is almost sacred, and that's the climbing community itself.
Yeah.
So I was just wondering, are you guys doing anything to try to enhance or build the community, or are you just going to try to say, let's let things like that happen organically?
Um, as far as the community as a whole, to me, it's having a good working relationship with the other climbing gyms around, right? If someone walks in, they've never been in a climbing gym, they climb on our walls and they're like, "Oh, this is awesome, but I'd really like to try the rope stuff," you know? And
Yeah, right.
they go over to Inspire and turns out they like the rope stuff more. I'm gonna be pumped that I just got this, our gym got this
Yeah,
person into climbing, right?
that's great.
And I think the other way around, if you first time you maybe go to a ropes gym, you like the bouldering, but there's a limited number of bouldering routes. You come to ours and there's
Yeah,
150 bouldering routes.
yeah.
You got in because of someone else, but you found your way to us, right? And I think that's kind of the perfect situation, you know. Now in our actual gym, again, we want to be a membership facing business, right? Like we want to cater to our members more than anything else. Um, so as much as we'll have like planned community events like quarterly and things along those lines, man, we want to be doing something for our members every week, right?
Yeah,
One thing that we've tossed around is boulders and beer every Friday. Every
yeah,
Friday at 8, we hook up with one of the local breweries, get them out there and climb, have a couple beers. I Talking to people is never an issue in a climbing gym for the most part. You know,
sure.
you walk in and people are going to be cheering you on as you climb, even though you don't know them. So you have that, and then you add a little beer at the end of your session, and you're making some really good friends by that point, right?
Oh, that's spectacular. Like all the things I think about in terms of community
Uh-huh.
and building a community climbing, you've hit on all of them. And
Cool. Very
so
cool.
the one big thing is like you have a job to do as the owner and your managers and your setters.
Mhm.
It ultimately boils down to those people who are working the floor and working the desk. And in the
Yeah,
beginning of our
definitely.
conversation, you're just like, I'm going to hire good people who share the same values. And so
Yeah, yeah.
I'm really looking forward to that. One thing I didn't ask, you kind of hit the nail on the head with this too, is are there going to be like food or anything like that? Not that you guys are making, but you guys have on hand to sell.
Um, of course, for like we hope to have just food trucks out there pretty
Awesome. That's
often. That being said, we will have like a coffee bar
yeah,
towards our interest or entrance, but that's pretty. That's of course we'll have the Cliff Bars and all of those types of things. But
yeah.
we're I definitely did not have the guts to try to open
No, there's no
a
way.
restaurant in
Way
in
too
the
hard.
gym. Yeah,
No, the only thing that I think is cool that it served the old Crux. I think they're shut down now in Austin, where they used to sell brownies from a local bakery or something like that.
yeah,
I used to
yeah.
just,
Right.
I don't know. I'm a big fan of brownies. Like if you ended up having brownies, I feel like I would just stop in for the brownies. But
There you
you've got
go.
everything covered. The reason I bring up food is,
Mhm.
food is one of those community-oriented things. When we
Yeah,
eat,
definitely.
it's
Uh-huh.
usually not about the food. It's about the shared experience where we're sharing beta and stuff like that. But if you guys are
Yeah,
bringing in food
definitely.
trucks and coffee, like what more do you need? A couple
Yeah, and
beers after the sesh?
And the area that we're in Conroe, I mean, geez, within 5 minutes, you could go to any number of places and have the best tacos you've ever had in your life.
That's
So
so true. That is
I'm
100%
I'm
true.
really looking forward to that.
No, that's awesome. So before we start to wrap things up, I wanted to maybe throw a few scenarios by you. You may be ready for, knowing you, you'd be
Yeah.
ready for these scenarios. You might not be ready for these scenarios. And this would just be giving you some practice on how to react to this type of person that
Well,
walks in the gym. So I'll just
yeah.
kind of throw some people out there and you
Uh,
do your best. If let's say you're working the front counter that day.
I
So
like it. I like it.
our first is, how would you respond to your first Karen?
Um, well, it depends. It depends on what they were being a Karen about,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, for sure. Let's say it's something that clearly is not the responsibility of you or your staff to fix.
Sure, sure. You know, as much as important as customer service is, um, you also at a point you have to same thing you're talking about culture, right? And if someone's coming in and they're complaining about things that are just the way things are done there, sometimes you have to invite people to leave. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well
As
put.
as politely as possible. Don't tell them that their worries or concerns don't matter, but tell them that it might not be the place for
That's
those
great.
concerns.
So good. Okay, my next one is one that you can handle perfectly. So let's say there's like a 65-year-old person who walks
Yeah,
in and it's just like, I'm too old to do this.
yeah, yeah. Um, so that's a tricky one, and that's something that I think you hear much more at a bouldering gym than at a ropes gym, right?
Hmm.
People are very concerned about, I mean, just the drop, right? Even if you
Yeah,
even if you land right, it can be a little jolting and a little whoa,
for
right?
sure.
One thing about our routes, and we've talked quite a bit about this, is horizontal routes, right? Like we
Yeah.
we want people there to climb. We want people of all ages there to climb, and not every route has to go up to the 16-foot finish mark, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Like we can do a lot of lateral horizontal climbing that's incredibly physically challenging, but
That's
you
awesome.
can step right off the climb if you want to, you know. Um, uh, I was just talking about Chance. He is a lead climber through and through, and
Yeah,
he was very concerned about being able to get his endurance training in
that's
at a
awesome.
bouldering gym. And we're like, hey, it's no problem. Matt, our head setter's like, oh, we can
That's
get you 1
so,
foot off the ground and run you for 100 feet if you want to.
man, you hardly ever see that. That is so cool. I'm so
Yeah.
pumped. I don't even know if that was a good question, but that answer was awesome. Thank you. So, what about someone who, forget about climbing. Let's just say
Mhm.
you have somebody who has never worked out before, and they're like, "Hey, I've never worked out before. I don't even know where to begin.
Yeah.
Can you help me?"
Um, Man, that's so all new members, and this is something that we're gonna do slightly differently than more traditional climbing gyms, right? Um, is a big emphasis, not emphasis, but we really want to let people know that we have personal trainers and we have one-on-one climbing coaches, right?
Yeah.
Um, our price point for personal training and one-on-one coaching is quite a bit less than the industry average, which I'm pretty happy about. I think it's cheaper for the consumer. Our trainers are still definitely getting paid more than what a lot of other trainers are getting paid at gyms. So why not put it at that
Why
price
not?
point, right?
Yeah.
But one thing that we're doing, let's say you walk into 24-hour fitness and sign up for a membership, the first thing they're going to say is, "Hey, you get a free session with a personal trainer with your membership." That's something that they don't necessarily do at climbing gyms, but
Yeah.
we're going to try to introduce that and kind of see how that goes. Um, Not necessarily, I mean, there's no pressure to buy personal training or anything along those lines, but let's say you have a question, a personal trainer is a great person to ask this, but you never met any of the personal trainers, they
Right.
maybe it's intimidating to someone or something like that. That initial talk, that initial consultation, whether people decide to go with personal training or not, they just built a relationship in a gym, right? With one
Yeah.
of the gym employees and someone that can answer any of their questions that they might have, right? Even if they're not using that person's service 2 times a week for an hour or something like that. Hey, this man, this is really tight on me. How can I get this? How can I get this
Yeah,
stretched out or worked out?
for sure.
All of our trainers are going to be incredibly personable. That's to work there. You've got to be able to talk to people, right? So I think the way that we're setting that up is really going to help build the community as well, right? Everyone, I want as many people knowing everyone else in the gym as possible, and having no issue asking any staff a question, whether it's fitness related,
Cool.
climbing related, or anything along those lines.
Man, that's so cool. Are you guys by chance selling lacrosse balls at your gym?
We will definitely be selling lacrosse balls. Yeah.
Great. I mean, you introduced the lacrosse ball to me one time just at Inspire, and I was like, man, my
Yeah.
back is messed up. And you're like, try this. I'm like, oh my God, you saved my life. But man, I could see MoCo lacrosse balls being a big selling point.
For sure. Yeah, I have been looking up custom lacrosse
All
balls
right, sweet.
the
That's
past few days.
get them in your colors. That'd be awesome. All
Yeah.
right. So last question. I don't think this will happen, but you never
Uh,
know. I'm just throwing it out there in case it
yeah,
does.
yeah.
Let's say somebody comes in, they're like, I don't really want to climb, but I will offer you $20 if I can just smell some of your rental shoes. Is that something you would do, or is that just out of the question? No.
Down the road when we're replacing rental shoes, maybe I'll sell that guy a pair of rental shoes for 20
We'll
bucks that
meet
we
you
were
out
gonna
back.
throw out. Yeah, yeah.
That's awesome. So before we get going, where can our listeners learn more about the gym? How
Yeah.
can they learn more about what you guys are doing?
So our website is mocobouldering.com. Our Facebook is MoCo Bouldering and Fitness, and our Instagram is moco.gym. But we have a great social media guy, and he's very quick to respond if you ask any questions. But he's constantly putting updates out there. So if you just follow any of those things, you're gonna get flooded with what's going on at the gym, and. Yeah, just like I was just saying, within the next week or so, we should have a soft opening date and grand opening date. So definitely follow those channels to stay up to date on when that drops.
Yeah, absolutely. So, is there anything we missed? Is there something that you wanted to talk about that I wasn't able to hit on?
Um, Man, I don't think so. I think we hit all the points. Yeah, if anyone's interested in checking out the gym, we're going to be making some posts offering times to sign up for our hard hat tours. So
Cool.
be on the lookout for that. I'm so pumped to get other people in the gym. Only maybe five or so people have seen it up to this point, and man, I just want to really looking forward to showing it off.
I really can't wait. Zac Shoulders, owner of MoCo, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
If you're listening to adventure stories, then you should visit thedihedral.com. You will find stories from other members of the community and read about climbing, life, and the outdoors. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Let's connect and climb on.
Climb on!